Alright, so I'm going to start by doing a brief overview of the Sustainable Development Goals, which are also known as the SDGs. Now, these are a set of universal goals that were set in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly. They were designed to help combat the urgent environmental, political, and economic challenges facing our world. This is a universal call to action to end poverty, protect our planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. There's a total of 17 goals and 169 targets which are designed to be achieved by the year 2030. They also integrate the three dimensions of sustainable development, which are economic viability, environmental protection, and social equity. So as you can see here on the screen, we have all the social development goals. So for example, we have goal number 2, which is zero hunger. And essentially this was established to end hunger and achieve food security and to also promote sustainable agriculture. We also have goal number 8, which is also pretty interesting. And this one is decent work and economic growth. So as you can see, there's a lot of goals and they're all very different from each other. So I'm not going to go through all of them individually. But as you can see, these are very ambitious goals and they each have their own set of specific and diverse targets. So these objectives really, they might seem unattainable or even unrealistic, but the good thing about them is that we can all contribute to their realization and we can all help achieve this vision for a better world. In fact, their implementation really depends on the active engagement of governments, but also the active engagement of civil society. So I really think it's our responsibility to help ensure a better world, not only for ourselves, but also for future generations. And it's for this reason that I decided to create a transition project that was designed to contribute to one of the Sustainable Development Goals to ultimately try and reach sustainable development by 2030. Our continued and increasing overconsumption is having detrimental impacts on our planet. We're surpassing the sustainable capacity of our ecosystem, which is degrading our environment and could ultimately lead to the degradation or even the depletion of certain natural resources. Urgent action is needed to resolve this problem. Goal 12 of the Sustainable Development Goals is to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. This goal outlines a 10-year framework plan to drastically reduce food waste and implement policies that improve resource efficiency, reduce waste, and promote sustainable practices across all sectors of the economy. This plan contains a wide range of targets, one of which is related to food waste. This is the target 12.3. It seeks to have per capita global food waste at the retail and consumer levels, as well as to reduce food loss during production and supply by 2030. SDG target 12.3 has two components. So first of all, we have the global food losses, and then we have the second component, which is the global food waste. Food losses really refers to the reduction of the quantity of food that occurs during the production, storage, processing, and distribution stages of the food value chain. So essentially, it's the food that gets lost before it reaches the consumer. So we as consumers don't really contribute to these losses. It's mainly an issue that pertains to the supply chain. Food waste, on the other hand, occurs at retail and consumer levels. So this is when individuals and businesses consciously throw away food before or after it spoils. So food is wasted in a variety of ways, such as discarding products that are close or beyond the best before date, and also getting rid of fresh produce that deviates from what is considered optimal. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, so the FAO, a specialized agency of the United Nations, the global volume of food wastage is estimated at 1.6 billion tons of primary product equivalents. So total food wastage for the edible part of this amounts to 1.3 billion tons. So essentially, this is the food that could be recuperated. Additionally, food wastage's carbon footprint is estimated at 3.3 billion tons of CO2 equivalents of greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere per year. So for my transition project, I have decided to tackle the food waste issue as I believe it is closely related to consumer behavior and therefore implies more responsibility on our part. Also, this is an issue that has a multitude of negative impacts, so it's urgent that we do something about this and try and fix it. According to a recent report by the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, Canada is one of the heaviest food wasters globally. In fact, Second Harvest, the largest food rescue organization in the country, conducted a year-long research project to develop a report entitled The Avoidable Crisis of Food Waste. This report states that 60% of food produced in Canada, amounting to 35.5 million metric tons, is lost and wasted annually. Of that, 32%, equaling 11.2 million metric tons of lost food, is avoidable and is edible food that could be redirected to support people in our communities. The financial value of this avoidable waste equates to $49.46 billion. So essentially, that's close to $50 billion that's practically wasted every year. So for my transition project, I was inspired by Second Harvest Food Rescue and Delivery Program, which collects surplus food through the supply chains and distributes it to local organizations. My project's purpose is to reduce food waste by salvaging excess edible food from grocery stores and other food businesses such as restaurants and bakeries and redirecting it to people in need To do so, we would encourage our local grocery stores to utilize foodrescue.ca, which is a platform designed for food businesses to easily donate their surplus food to local charities and nonprofit organizations. Once we accomplish that, our role in this project will be to pick up and sort through the food that will be donated. We will collect these items every week and provide them to our meal program partners and community food banks. Our organization's vision is to help create a prosperous, stable, and equitable world for all of humanity and future generations by maintaining environmental responsibility to preserve our Earth's natural resources and biodiversity. Our mission is to reduce food waste in Ottawa while simultaneously eliminating food insecurity from our city and minimizing the amount of toxic emissions from food waste in landfills. As we established earlier, approximately 1/3 of all food produced for human consumption is lost and wasted every year. To contribute to the global effort to address this issue, my transition project will implement an action plan to reduce food waste in Ottawa by 30% by 2025. Here are some of the steps we will take to reach this target. Number 1, identify metrics to track the overall success of our project. Number 2, encourage the federal government to adopt and promote national food loss and waste targets by the end of 2020. Number 3, create annual awareness campaigns about food waste to encourage our community to adopt new habits and behaviors that promote sustainable food consumption and to educate our community on how to prevent, rescue, and recycle food waste. Number 4, implement a food waste curriculum in 3 schools across Ottawa with the help of the Ottawa-Carleton District School Board so that students develop skills, competencies, and knowledge on the management of food waste. And lastly, number 5, ensure that 60% of food businesses in Ottawa utilize food waste diversion platforms such as foodrescue.ca. Creating a strong community presence is essential to the success of our transition project. Here's how we will involve the rest of our community in our plan. First and foremost, it is essential for our organization to have a strong, clearly defined identity, so we're going to focus on the development of a shared vision that interconnects the social, environmental, and economic interest of our community. This will encourage people to join our organization since achieving our shared vision means meeting a variety of needs and interests, and I really believe that people will want to take action and bring to life this project because it has the potential to bring multidimensional benefits to their own community. We would then have to focus on informing and educating our community about the transition project. This can be done in a multitude of ways, but I believe that social media is probably one of the most powerful tools to gain exposure. Having a good social media strategy could allow me to produce a wide audience in no time, and it's an easy and efficient way to inform people about my transition project and stimulate community involvement. Now, to get started, I'm going to create an official website as well as other social media accounts on platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then the following step would be to create a video outlining our vision and action plan to familiarize the public on the nature of our transition project. So the video is going to be a little bit similar to what I'm doing right now. This video would then be uploaded to our social media, and we would encourage members of our community to share it and spread the word on what we're trying to do. So for example, they could just repost it on their stories, share it with their friends. We would also ask other organizations and community groups to share our website and social media networks on their own platforms. Once people become aware of our project, we're going to use our social media platforms to reach people and keep them up to date on the progress of our project, to inform people on upcoming events and upcoming activities, just in general, just to keep people engaged for a longer period of time. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, social media is an incredible tool to share a message, and it's very effective, it's very easy. However, a lot of older people don't necessarily have social media, and we also want to include them in our project. So in order to reach them, I think we could use traditional media. So for example, we could advertise our organization and get people involved by sending press releases to community news outlets such as the Glee Report, and additionally we could also try to get an interview on a local radio station. As part of the community involvement process, our organization will be hosting a public information session on June 20th at the Horticulture Building located in Ottawa's Lansdowne Park. Now, this event will begin at 7 p.m. with a brief presentation in which we will inform and educate people on the economic, social, and environmental impacts of food waste, and we will also familiarize the audience with our organization's mission statement. Additionally, there will be polls and quizzes through the presentation to encourage active participation. I will also contact local academics and community leaders to see if they're willing to speak at my event, because I think it'd be interesting to have a guest speaker. We will conclude the presentation with a Q&A session, and once the presentation's over, we're going to offer complimentary drinks and snacks. So this will give the audience members, the speakers, and the project coordinators the opportunity to mix and mingle over food, and there will also be some project-related activities and information booths across the room after the presentation, so that's mainly for kids and just to make the whole experience a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more interactive. At 9 p.m., we're going to invite our guests to an outdoor movie night in the Lansdowne Park, which is a very convenient location because it's just right outside the building where the event will be held. We'll be watching a documentary entitled Waste, the Story of Food Waste. This event will be an excellent opportunity for us to share information about our organization, meet potential members face-to-face and volunteers, garner ideas and feedback from our community and the people present, and also network with potential partners. Ideally, I'd like to partner up with the Ottawa Food Bank, which is an organization that provides fresh and non-perishable food to people in need across the city. This is a well-known and respected organization. Building a relationship with them could enhance our transition project's legitimacy and status, and it could help us get established in our community. The Ottawa Food Bank is a charity that has operated for many years. They have a lot of experience in the nonprofit sector, so we could benefit from their expertise and mentorship. They could help us find sponsors to fund our projects. They could also connect us with other organizations that provide food to people, like for example, homeless shelters, women's shelters, and children breakfast programs. And finally, they could give us advice on how to structure a program so that it is as efficient as possible. An alliance with the Ottawa Food Bank would also give us the opportunity to build additional relationships through their own networks. I believe that this partnership would benefit both organizations because since we're pretty similar, we could create joint programs and use resources to develop innovative programs together. This will allow us to deliver on our own organization's missions and at the same time build greater capacity within our sectors. In addition to the Ottawa Food Bank, I'd like to partner with Food Sharing Ottawa, which is a community of volunteers who aim to reduce food waste in our city. Their mission and the way they operate is very similar to ours. This organization collects food from restaurants, bakeries, grocery stores that would otherwise end up in the garbage and redistributes it to charities. By creating a partnership, we could achieve greater impact and accomplish our missions far more efficiently than we would have by working alone. This collaborative partnership would reduce duplication of effort and increase coordination. It would allow us to strengthen and expand our programs and services, and it would ultimately maximize our resources. Ideally, our team would be as diverse as possible, and I don't just mean that in terms of gender, ethnicity, and age, but also in terms of difference in skills, abilities, and personality traits, because I think that we could really benefit from having a heterogeneous workforce. People with different backgrounds can bring together their different talents, experiences, and various skill sets. It would ultimately enhance our group's creativity and could lead to breakthrough innovations. Additionally, we would develop a group structure and effectiveness model to ensure group cohesiveness and goal attainment, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about this in the next segment. Having a happy workforce is crucial for the survival and performance of the transition project because happy people just tend to work harder, they tend to work better together, and are generally more productive. So this is why I'd like to create and maintain a healthy and pleasant environment in which the group members feel valued and respected. In order to do this, I'm going to solicit everyone's opinion and utilize it as much as possible to cement the fact that each member of the group is valuable and that their opinions are important. I also want to cultivate an open and supportive environment so that team members can share their ideas without the fear of being judged or ridiculed. So in addition to having a positive environment, it's important for a group to establish ground rules. So this will keep everyone aligned and contribute to the team's ability to work together effectively. So we're going to create the rules collectively so that they are agreed upon by everyone, because I think that by doing this, we're more likely to follow the rules and take responsibility for enforcing them. To maximize efficiency, the work will be divided into different tasks and given to team members based on individual strengths. Furthermore, we will use a strategic group schedule and team calendar to plan and structure our work. Now, this will ensure group cohesiveness and goal attainment. Finally, we will use the group structure suggested by an article entitled Group Roles, Maximizing Group Performance by the Center for Teaching Excellence of the University of Waterloo. This article recommends assigning roles to each member of the group. So there are 4 fundamental roles to consider. The first one is a leader/facilitator. Then we have the arbitrator/monitor. We also have the notekeeper/timekeeper, and the last one is the devil's advocate. Alright, so now I'm going to put a brief explanation of each role on the screen so that you can take a look at it. I'm not going to go over them individually. It's more for you to get a general understanding of what each role consists of. So yeah, here it is. So meetings will be held weekly, preferably at the same place and the same time in order to establish a routine and create stability. And it's during these meetings that we will be making major decisions related to our projects. So we will be following a specific process in order to avoid conflict and come up with equitable decisions. We will start by identifying the nature of the decision that must be made, so we have a goal on which to focus our discussion. We will then brainstorm ideas to generate potential solutions. At this stage, we could also combine ideas from the brainstorming session to optimize our options. Once this is done, we will analyze and evaluate them to identify the best solution. Following this period of discussion, we would ideally come to an agreement and then select an option that everyone supports or at least tolerates. If we're unable to reach consensus, the group will hold a vote and the majority wins. Well, first of all, I will try to always respond quickly when I notice that there's a disagreement. Otherwise, the conflict could escalate and get much worse. The first step I would take to actually resolve conflict is to try and find the nature of the disagreement, because it's important to understand its origin in order to find the right solution to resolve the conflict. In order to do this, I will meet with the people involved in the disagreement individually. Not only will this give me a better understanding of the conflict and the disagreement that is taking place, it will also allow the people that are caught up in the conflict to feel listened to and understood, and it will also give them the opportunity to share their points of view freely and without judgment. I will then organize a meeting with everyone involved to try and find a solution and a compromise. Also, I will never take sides in a disagreement. I will simply act as a mediator who is there to find a solution that suits everyone, with the common objective of bringing these people to an understanding, or at least lowering the intensity of the disagreement. Our first practical project will take place on August 20th. So we're going to send out a group of volunteers to pick up surplus food from our local Loblaws located in the Glebe, and that'll be around 6:30, so right before the store opens. After that, the volunteers will help us prepare food for distribution by sorting, labeling, and repacking food items. The volunteers will be trained to look at the condition of the donations as well as the expiry/best before dates to ensure that only safe products get distributed. This might take up to 2 hours depending on the quantity and the quality of the produce. Also, it depends on how many volunteers we have working that day. The food will then be delivered the same day to the Ottawa Mission Foundation, which is a homeless shelter here in our city. I believe that my transition project has the potential to tackle economic, social, and environmental issues all at once, which, as I mentioned previously, are the 3 dimensions that are essential to achieving sustainable development. Starting with the social impact, in Ottawa alone, more than 39,000 people visit an emergency food bank program every month. In fact, Ottawa Public Health estimated that 1 in 7, so around 13.9% of Ottawa households are food insecure, with 9.5% experiencing moderate to severe food insecurity. Now, my project will help our community by ensuring people have access to the food that they need in order to be healthy and strong, and will also hopefully help reduce those statistics. So now in regards to the economic impact, as I mentioned previously, the total financial value of potentially rescuable, lost, and wasted food in Canada is around $50 billion, and of that, more than $10 billion is lost on wasted food. I believe that redirecting edible food instead of just throwing it away can help maximize economic efficiency by making optimal use of resources and minimizing waste, because, well, to put it simply, less produce waste equals less financial waste as well, and it will also encourage companies to adopt increasingly sustainable practices in all forms of their business, at least at a local level here in Ottawa. So finally, the environmental impact. Like I mentioned previously, there are enormous environmental costs to wasting food, because what happens is that when food waste is thrown into landfills, it rots and it becomes a significant source of methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas. So by recycling food in a responsible manner, instead of just sending it to the landfills where it would just continue to rot, my transition project would help us reduce food waste and improve resource efficiency as well. And over time, it could help maybe reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Canada and hopefully at a global level as well.